How's it going, Internet? Welcome back to the Road to Champcar. This is episode 2, and we are going today to assess what needs to be done to the car to make it drivable again. And we're going to go ahead and give a little introduction to the car so you guys can get familiar with it and really get to know it when we're going racing. Yeah, so let's just get started. Okay guys, so we are going to do a quick overview of this car. Pardon the wind noise. We're going to do a quick overview of this car before we get started on what actually the car needs to be drivable. Yeah, so let's just get started. We have 18 by 9.5 wheels from a Shelby GT500 all the way around on this car, wrapped in hand coupe RS4 200 treadwear tire. This tire is the optimal, for at least a car of this weight, endurance tire. These things really wear like iron, and they're not so much slower than like the RE71 or even the Toyo Proxys R1Rs or the, what's the new one, the AO52 or something like that. They are slower, yes, but not by like 4 seconds a lap, but more like about 1.5 seconds. And hopefully these tires will actually last the entire race. Entire race. But, okay, whatever. That's enough about tires. That's why I chose the hand coupes. Pretty reasonable tire. We have Boss 302 or GT500 calipers. It's kind of hard to see because it's a powder-coated black caliper. But it is a 14-inch big brake kit on the front axle of this car. And that typically moves the braking bias way towards the front of the car. So to correct that, in the rear, I still have the factory GT-sized rotor. And that will change at some point to the Cobra size, but not super critical right now. I have the factory GT-sized rotor, but in the back here, I have 1995 Ford Taurus calipers. And what that means is it's a 5mm bigger piston that actually pushes the brake pads to the metal of the rotor, and that brings the bias rearward. So it's more even. It's still a little front heavy, but not super, super bad. So it's still a little front heavy, but not super, super bad. But it works for the time being. So let's get into the interior of the car, or lack thereof, I should say. And here we have our roll cage, you know, nice NASCAR bars on that side. We have the X-Brace over here. Let's talk about what this car needs to be drivable. So, firstly, like aesthetically, because this car has no dash, the entire interior wiring harness of the car is completely exposed and in the way of everything. So I need to go out with a multimeter, pin everything out, and tuck it, cut whatever I don't need. Any HVAC controls, any cruise control, all that jazz, don't need it anymore. Weight reduction, it can go away. So I really just need to figure out, and that will just take time, and it's a really tedious job. But the biggest mechanical thing to keep this car from driving, I'll walk around to the driver's side so you can see it, is when I took the dashboard out of this car single-handedly, because the builder didn't help me at all, when I took the dash out of this car, I did it quickly so I could get on the road because I left the same day that the dash bar was installed. There were no provisions made to mount the steering column to a fixed location, so it's currently held in by zip ties, and you know, it's fine. It's not really fine for moving around, but like you can move the steering wheel and whatever, and it's like you can putt around. But obviously for any motion above like walking speed, it is very bad. So I need to science out a way to connect the steering wheel to the dash bar. Or pardon me, the steering column to the dash bar. I've got a couple ideas on how I can do that, but how I think I'm going to do it is I think that this shaft right here, I don't know if you can see it, that shaft right there, I think, and if anybody out there knows the diameter of that shaft about here, let me know, because I think it's either a 3/4 inch or a 1/13/16 inch, and either one will work, but that means that I can have a clamp mount to the dash bar with a bearing that centralizes the steering shaft so it doesn't move left or right, and so it actually can ride and spin freely but be mounted rigidly, if that makes any sense. So I think I'm going to have a clamp that goes to the dash bar, but I need to actually take apart the steering column, measure some stuff, and whatever. Also, so another thing that I want to do for performance, but not really like speed, it's really more endurance performance, is when I lived in Michigan, I took this car to Waterford Hills road racing circuit in Waterford, Michigan. Highly recommend, if you're in the area or even like 100 miles away from the track, to go visit that track. It is hilariously fun. It's got good elevation change. It's very technical. Really, you get to understand how your car behaves at the limit of grip. Almost, as David Crofty says, where ambition exceeds adhesion. Anyways, that track, you're maybe full throttle, 40% of the lap. Like, down the back straight, I hit, I think, 95 in this car, and that's not really that impressive. It's not that high of a track in terms of top speed, not really that fast. But even still, my engine temps the coolant temps were in the 215, 220 degrees range, Fahrenheit, and especially for an endurance car, that is way too high, because it got that hot after 20-minute session. And I mean, I have the video to prove that gauge is just on the limit. Anyways, so what I'm going to do is I have a heat extractor from a 2012 GT500. More GT500 parts on this car, which I am not complaining about. But it's a heat extractor off of that, and I'm going to mount it in the low pressure zone of the hood, so somewhere around there. So this is what I'm talking about. As air is coming up over this plane, you're creating a low pressure zone somewhere around here. So the air is basically moving super fast, and you have a high pressure zone here. With this heat extractor, it's basically just a big vent. If you place it about yay, not only will heat be emitted and sucked out from under the hood, cooling your engine, making your radiator work more effectively, but also it's theoretically going to generate a very small amount of downforce. And with that spoiler that I have on the back, now granted that spoiler makes a lot of drag, but with that spoiler, any amount of front downforce on this car is a good thing. I might only see 15 to 25 pounds, if that, but something is always better than nothing. So yeah, this episode was really not super technical, but my next steps are I'm going to disassemble that steering column, try and mount the steering column to the dash bar in some way. Maybe get this installed. You might see Andrew around for that, and to smooth out the finish of the ducktail, and do a little bit of zip tie management for the wiring harness. And then on the 31st of October, there is a Autocross at the Corvette Museum. And I am going to, I'm already registered for that, so this car really should be drivable by then, but that will probably be the 4th or 5th episode of this series. Next episode, you'll see me disassemble that, and then maybe, if we have time, plop this in. But, yeah, so thanks for sticking around. It's kind of a shorter episode, not super technical, but I think that's good every once in a while. You really got to know this car, and really got to get introduced to me, formally again. So yeah, thank you, take care, and keep on keeping on, and stay fast. See you next time, guys.